Hi, my name is Katrine Westgaard, and this is the Lady Macbeth Paradox, the strategic role of female leaders in far-right populist parties. Charismatic, calculated, and divisive, far-right populist leaders shape the political spectrum and influence discourse within their countries. These powerful leaders advance their party's ideals to the national and international stage, thus normalizing the polarizing platforms of their movements. The women that occupy these positions have succeeded in furthering their parties and undermining democracy in the European sphere. Far-right populist parties exacerbate political divides domestically, which threatens European democracies. The proliferation of far-right parties shifts the entire domestic political spectrum towards the far right, which entrenches their nativist and xenophobic ideology further into the public discourse. Once these parties enter positions of power, they may roll back democratic norms. Thus, in order to prevent the undermining of European democracy, we must first understand the ways in which these parties gain traction and come into power. Women are increasingly taking on leadership positions within far-right populist parties in Europe. They lead these parties, which challenges the view that the far right is represented by men for men. They also add a strategic value to their party that remains largely overlooked due to persistent stereotypes based on their sex. Consequently, female far-right populist leaders are dangerous because they are underestimated. Women leading far-right populist parties are threatening on three levels: the national, the regional, and the global. At the national level, female leaders shift the domestic political spectrum further towards the right through the mainstreaming effect, normalizing the divisive far-right rhetoric and by appearing to be softer than their male counterparts. At the regional level, these women help their parties attract enough votes to increase their share in the European Parliament so that they can collaborate with other far-right populist parties in Europe. These transnational coalitions and the far-right populist party's strength within the European Parliament all works to undermine the stability of the EU. At the global level, female leaders help far-right populist parties propagate anti-Atlanticism and in the past have turned towards the Kremlin for support. Europe and the United States' shared commitment to the transatlantic alliance has ensured the success of this alliance. The ability of female leaders to increase the appeal of far-right nationalist parties to the masses at the national and regional level undermines that commitment. Female leaders of far-right populist parties can attract a greater breadth and number of voters through employing more effective messaging techniques, garnering a larger media presence, and leveraging gendered perceptions to soften their party's image. Female leaders construct a dual persona that allows them to assume a masculine leadership style whilst appearing to uphold their party's traditional values. They take advantage of their feminine identities to lean into a softened image while still maintaining hard rhetoric and leadership styles characteristic of far-right populist parties. As a result of their dual persona, these female leaders appear to be softer, using softer rhetoric when discussing polarizing issues. They also help their parties achieve a mainstreaming effect, which makes their politics seem less divisive by framing nationalist ideas as a defense of the liberal order. For example, these women typically frame discourse on immigration by discussing the threat migrants supposedly pose to women. Since women leading far-right populist parties receive more media attention, it distorts the representation of women within them. Thus, female voters see more of themselves in these parties, which increases their appeal. Similarly, female politicians in the media are often portrayed and perceived of as less radical than their male counterparts. Through the interplay of these techniques and characteristics, female leaders are able to attract an increased breadth and number of voters to their parties, which translates into party success. Applying this framework to past female leaders within far-right populist parties demonstrates the true nature of their threat. From 2015 to 2017, Beata Szydlo represented the Law and Justice Party as the Prime Minister of Poland. Following the 2015 parliamentary elections, Law and Justice gained control over both the executive branch and parliament, allowing them to consolidate power and undermine elements of Polish democracy. Beata Szydlo played a crucial role in enabling the party to make these extensive political gains. Szydlo's emphasis on her identity as a religious, working-class mother increased her appeal to the Polish electorate. She constructed a persona which allowed her to succeed in Polish politics, while simultaneously fitting into the country's societal perceptions of women. The success of Beata's bid for prime minister rested on her ability to appeal to the less fringe Polish electorate. Her role as a woman and an unknown politician made her and her ideology seem more trustworthy and mainstream than her male counterparts in Law and Justice. With Szydlo's victory, Law and Justice was able to form a complete independent majority in government. The party subsequently consolidated power, restricting the president and prime minister's decision-making capabilities and empowering Jarosław Kaczynski, the leader of the party. When Law and Justice took control in Poland, it signified that democracy and liberalism were weaker than anticipated. Thus, the repercussions of Beata Szydlo leading Law and Justice to victory in 2015 extended beyond Poland's borders. Beata Szydlo is just one example of a female far-right populist leader's strategic value to her party. Other female leaders, such as Marine Le Pen and Giorgia Meloni, demonstrate that these strategies and implications are applicable in other European contexts. In order to address the threat that female far-right populist leaders present for European stability and the sustainability of the transatlantic alliance, I suggest a three-pronged approach. To gauge the strength of these parties at the national level, policymakers can apply the framework described to identify and create a database of female far-right populist leaders and their policy positions to share among the transatlantic alliance. At the regional level, the European Union and NATO could commission a working group to examine the intersection of gender and security and the threat of female leaders within far-right populist coalitions. At the global level, the United Nations could host a security forum highlighting the dangers of far-right populist parties to global democracy with a special emphasis on the role female leaders play within them. It remains to be seen the impact politicians like Marine Le Pen and Giorgia Meloni will continue to have on European politics, but already these women have significantly shaped and contributed to the success of the far right. Underestimating these far-right female leaders and their strategic value increases the risk of Europe and the world being blindsided by the entrenchment of these parties and the subsequent eradication of the liberal order. Thank you.